Hello and welcome. It's Tuesday, the 20th of May. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. The Korean government immediately initiates measures to shake up Korea's safety system and regulations following President Park Geun-hye's nationally televised address on the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. Thailand's army has declared martial law after 6 months of anti-government protests and political crisis. It's not immediately clear whether a coup is underway. Plus, the US government slaps cyber espionage charges on 5 Chinese military officials accused of hacking into American companies to find out trade secrets. Our top story this morning: more than a month has passed since the Sewol-ho ferry sank off Korea's southwestern coast, taking with it the lives of so many young people. Following a tearful address on Monday by President Park Geun-hye, the government is tasked with making sure her plans to boost safety and stamp out corruption are seen through. Our Ji-yeon reports.
The government wasted no time initiating follow-up measures to President Park's package of remedies to ensure another disaster like the Sewol-ho ferry disaster does not happen in the future. As her address wrapped Monday, officials led by Presidential Chief of Staff Ki-choon broke President Park's remedies into 5 main sectors and 27 measures in total. The main sectors are the restructuring of government, reforming how government officials are appointed, proposing a special law to the National Assembly, authorizing the establishment of a fact-finding committee into the ferry disaster, the establishment of a national safety ministry, and the establishment of a monument and a People's Safety Day on April 16th, the day of the ferry disaster. President Park singled out corruption as the main factor undermining the country's safety standards, saying it created an atmosphere where the ferry could sink and take so many lives with it.
공직 유관단체 기관장과 감사직에는 공무원을 임명하지 않을 것입니다. 퇴직 공직자의 취업 제한 대상 기관 수를 지금보다 3배 이상 대폭 확대하겠습니다.
A large number of state-run organizations are headed by retired public employees that have worked in firms and organizations related to their former responsibilities. These officials have been described as part of a bureaucratic mafia because of their tendency to have collusive ties with those they were supposed to supervise or regulate. According to the state-run provider of public information, ARIRANG, 51 out of 153 heads of public organizations, or roughly 1/3, could be categorized as bureaucratic mafia. President Park is expected to carry out a government reshuffle, including hiring a new prime minister after she returns from a 3-day trip from the UAE later this week. Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
And on the investigation front, prosecutors say they're done playing games with the de facto owner of the sunken ferry operator, who has so far continued to defy court summons. A special team is now in place to bring in Yoo Byung-an by the end of this week. Our Shin Se-min reports.
Prosecutors looking for the elusive practical owner of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry say they will make all effort to bring him in by week's end. In a briefing held Sunday, the leader of the Sewol-ho investigation task force said a special squad of more than 40 detectives would be formed to track Yoo Byung-an down and arrest him. He said Yoo and his family have mocked the government and challenged authority in defying orders to come in for questioning. The 73-year-old is suspected of tax evasion and embezzlement of millions of dollars from company affiliates owned by him and members of his family. Prosecutors believe his illegal actions contributed to the sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry. Yoo is presumed to be holed up inside a religious compound his family owns in Gyeonggi-do province. The area is currently surrounded by supporters of Yoo who are blocking off authorities from entering. The prosecution has said it is considering raiding the compound. Arrest warrants for Yu's second son and eldest daughter, both of whom are residing abroad, have been issued after the two failed to appear for questioning. Yu's eldest son, who was involved in the day-to-day operations of the company that owned the Sewol-ho ferry, has also refused to cooperate with prosecutors. His whereabouts are unknown. Over a month has passed since the Sewol-ho ferry capsized off the southwestern coast of Korea. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Now, in the rest of the day's news, the North Korean nuclear issue and an upcoming trip by Chinese President Xi Jinping to Seoul is expected to top the agenda when China's foreign minister touches down in the South Korean capital next week for talks. Our Hwang Sang-hee reports.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will visit Seoul next Monday for talks with his South Korean counterpart Yoon Byung-se as the two countries seek to put a stop to North Korea's nuclear ambitions. On top of the agenda will be fine-tuning the details of Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Seoul. Xi is expected to make his first trip to South Korea since becoming president in the coming months. Although a specific date has not been set, South Korean government officials say the summit may take place in the first half of this year. Another pending issue on the table will be the possibility of a fourth nuclear test by North Korea. While North Korea appears ready to conduct a test at any time, Beijing may use Wang's visit to send a clear message to Pyongyang that its nuclear ambitions will not be tolerated and could result in stronger sanctions. At the same time, it could reiterate the need for dialogue to settle tensions on the Korean peninsula. Beijing and Seoul during Wang's visit may also exchange opinions about Japan's denial of history and its push for collective self-defense. Both nations, major victims of Tokyo's past militarism, have voiced concerns over the Abe administration's pursuit to revise its pacifist constitution without fully recognizing the country's wartime atrocities. The revision would allow Japan to come to the defense of an ally under attack, a revival of bitter World War II memories for the two nations. During his two-day stay, the Chinese diplomat is also scheduled to visit with President Park Geun-hye and Presidential Security Advisor Kim Jang-soo. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
Now, North Korea's nuclear and missile programs will also make up the bulk of talks in Singapore later this month between the defense chiefs of South Korea, the US and Japan. South Korea's defense ministry says Kim Kwan-jin, Chuck Hagel and Itsunori Onodera will meet on May 31st on the sidelines of the 13th Asia Security Summit. Although details will be finalized next week, the threat posed by North Korea is expected to lead discussions. The sharing of military intelligence will also likely be on the table, as Seoul has been pushing for the three sides to sign an MOU on the matter.
Said that a team of South Korea...
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. President Park Geun-hye is in the United Arab Emirates for a two-day visit to attend a ceremony to mark an installation of the first Korean-made nuclear reactor in that country. The presidential office in Seoul says this is the first time Korea's nuclear reactor technology and safety will get recognition overseas. Korea and the UAE have agreed to install a total of 4 nuclear plants in the Gulf nation by the year 2020. Korea hopes to further expand its reach in the global nuclear plant industry by joining hands with the UAE and pave the way for Koreans to find opportunities on the world stage. During the visit, the president will also meet with the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. Despite the ongoing situation surrounding the Sewol-ho ferry disaster back home in Korea, officials say President Park decided to make the short trip in consideration of the future of the two sides' economic cooperation. And President Park's visit to the Gulf at such a sensitive time shows how important these nuclear reactor deals are to the country. Seoul hopes to secure more highly lucrative deals across the region in the coming years. Our Na Hyung-young reports.
Despite criticism about the timing of the trip, President Park is squeezing in a short 2-day visit to the United Arab Emirates starting Monday. It goes to show just how important she and the government regard the joint project in the Arab country. A 1,400-megawatt light water reactor built with Korean technology will be installed in Baraka, west of Abu Dhabi, and President Park will attend a ceremony celebrating the installation of the reactor, which is part of an estimated $40 billion bid Korea won in 2009. The deal includes the construction of 4 nuclear units in the region by the year 2020. Approximately 1,600 Korean workers are currently at the construction site in Baraka, and depending on the progress, Korea is said to be receiving up to nearly $300 million per month from the UAE. The first nuclear unit is not expected to be completed until 2017, but Korean government officials are hoping President Park's visit this week will demonstrate the nation's strong commitment to the project and send a message to other countries that may be considering similar deals with Korea. Saudi Arabia, for example, is looking to generate up to 20% of its electricity needs through nuclear energy by 2030. It plans to do so by building a total of 16 nuclear units by the year 2032, with the goal of having the first reactor online in 7 years' time. Vietnam is also looking for a contractor for building nuclear power plants, and with winners of both bids expected to be decided by the end of this year, the state-run Korea Electric Power Corporation is pulling out all the stops to make sure the deals are brought to Seoul. 나현경, ARIRANG News.
Now, if you live overseas or are a foreigner living here in Korea and you've tried to purchase goods off Korean websites in the past, you'll be absolutely over the moon by this news, because from this Tuesday, authentication certificates will no longer be required for online purchases made from abroad or by foreigners here. The Financial Services Commission and the Financial Supervisory Service say shoppers will no longer have to go through the rather arduous process of submitting authentication of one's identity when buying goods in excess of roughly $300. Up until now, internet shoppers had to install ActiveX software on their computer and download a program provided by local financial institutions. The software was a major headache as it did not work on all web browsers and it limited access to online shopping. Now, Korea's unemployment rate officially stands at 3.9%, which is an enviable figure compared to many other countries around the world. In reality, however, that figure is very far off the mark. Our Hwang Ji-yeon tells us what's behind this discrepancy and how the government plans to address it.
Song Se-jin says he's one of many who've delayed graduation to gain more preparation time to find work. Although he can graduate, he prefers to remain as a student until he lands a job.
I think many of my friends have high scores for English proficiency tests, and they also have different kinds of certificates. So I also took a semester off to prepare for all that.
But Song is not categorized as unemployed in the nation's jobs data. Rather, he's just a student preparing to get a job. And it's because of people like this that economists look past the official jobless rate to a so-called actual unemployment rate that includes those who are preparing to get a job underemployed or discouraged from finding a job. Taking them into account, the actual jobless bracket included over 3 million individuals in April, more than 3 times the government's official figure. The actual jobless rate also stands at 11%, up more than 7 percentage points from the unemployment rate announced last month. Statistics Korea, which compiles the jobs data, counts only those who don't have a job despite their efforts to get one, and that means when they actually start filling out applications.
But it has been criticized for many years that it is too narrow a definition to reflect the true state of unemployment and is inclined to underestimate the number of true unemployed.
In response to the criticism, Korea's statistics agency plans to release a new set of data in November which provides jobless figures based on international standards that will include the underemployed and discouraged seekers. It said the extra data would offer a full picture of the nation's job market. Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
Now, if you drive a Hyundai car in Korea, then listen up, because Hyundai Motor is recalling more than 120,000 Tucson SUVs over an airbag problem. Korea's transportation ministry said Monday that bolts attaching the driver's airbag to the steering wheel may be loose. This latest recall affects Tucson models produced between 2011 to 2013 and comes just 2 days after Hyundai recalled the same vehicle in the United States for the same problem. Here in Korea, free repair services are available at any of the automaker's service centers, and it starts today. Time now for a look through the international headlines that we're following this morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim standing by at the news centre. Good morning to you, Eunice. Now, huge news out of Thailand. The army there has declared martial law.
Hi, Mark. That's right. Thailand's army announced martial law was effective beginning 3 a.m. on this Tuesday morning. In a statement, it said the move was meant to, quote, keep peace and order and urge people to carry on their business as usual, underlining that this was not a coup d'etat. Thai public television showed images of soldiers outside of broadcast stations in Bangkok, announcing that all TV stations were being secured by the military. Political tensions remained high between pro- and anti-government groups even after the ouster of caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra by court order 2 weeks ago. And earlier, the army chief in a national address had warned the military would use force to prevent riots. Ukraine will hold its presidential elections this coming Sunday, and ahead of it, Russia announced its forces have begun to pull back from the Ukrainian border. The call to withdraw from planned spring drills came from Russian President Vladimir Putin, the Kremlin said, but the West several hours later said it has yet to see any indication of troop movement. White House spokesman Jay Carney said such an unkept promise was nothing new, and NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen said he would welcome a troop pullback as a first important contribution to de-escalating the crisis. Tensions continue to batter eastern Ukraine as dozens of Ukrainian servicemen have been killed in anti-terrorism operations in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. And in an unprecedented move, the United States has indicted 5 Chinese officers of the People's Liberation Army with the charge of hacking American manufacturing businesses and steelworkers union. The charge against members of Beijing's Cyber Intelligence Gathering Section was issued by a grand jury in Pennsylvania, where the U.S. companies are based. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder said the move represented an aggressive response against, quote, economic espionage that harvested trade secrets and other sensitive business data. The Chinese Foreign Ministry responded by saying the charges were extremely absurd, that the U.S. was working on fabricated facts, and suspended a working group between the two states to discuss cyber issues. Last month's parliamentary elections in Iraq has handed a partial victory for Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. Baghdad's election commission said Monday Maliki's state-of-the-law alliance took the most number of seats in the Council of Representatives with 92 of the 328, but it still fell short of a majority, requiring Maliki to win the support of rivals in parliamentary affairs, some of whom oppose a third term for the Iraqi leader. The Independent High Electoral Commission said 62% of the 22 million eligible voters cast their ballots in Iraq's first elections since U.S. troop withdrawals in 2011. And finally, an additional 4,000 Chinese citizens are said to have left Vietnam on Monday in the midst of anti-Chinese sentiment in the Southeast Asian country. According to various Chinese media, including Xinhua News Agency, 4 large ships were dispatched by Beijing Sunday, each capable of carrying up to 1,000 people each. It reported that many of the boarded 4,000 Chinese workers were contractors working at a steel plant being built by Formosa Plastics Group in central Vietnam, where at least 1 had died and 150 others injured from violent riots last week.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off in figure skating. Now, South Korea's figure queen Kim-yeon has had her official retirement, but her longtime rival Mao Sada is still uncertain on her future. With an ice show currently taking place at Japan's Tokyo Dome, Mao Sada stated in a press conference that she has decided to rest her body and mind for now before making her decision on her retirement. She added that she will rest for about a year and that she's still 50-50 on whether or not she will retire. Now, the 24-year-old has always been uncertain about her future, even hinting that she might retire after the Sochi Winter Games as well. And now moving over to the LPGA Kingsmill Championship, where South Korea's Park Geun-hye was in second place going into the final round, but unfortunately for her, a terrible final round dropped her way down. Despite shooting a 10 under par overall going into the final round, she shoots a 8 over on the final day to drop all the way down to 29th to finish with 2 under overall. Meanwhile, Lizette Salas continues to breeze through the 18 holes of the event, finishing with the title after shooting a 13 under overall. Meanwhile, world number 2 Stacey Lewis finished tied for 12th as she continues to threaten Park Geun-hye's number 1 spot. Now, if you're a fan of the South Korean national football team and plan to cheer for the Taeguk Warriors, good news, the uniform numbers have finally been finalized. Well, not a lot of changes from the previous uniform numbers, as Ki Sung-yeon gets his usual number 16, with Park Ji-yeon holding on to his number 10 jersey number as well. Son Heung-min, who will sport the number 9 jersey, will probably have one of the more popular jerseys this year, but the highly coveted number 7 jersey went to Kim Bo-kyung of Cardiff City, as many wondered who will wear the same number former captain Park Ji-sung once wore. And now over to the 2014 Women's Asia Cup, where South Korea drew against China 0-0, giving them the first place finish in Group B with 2 wins and 1 draw for a total of 7 points. Now, Korea moves on to the semifinals against Australia, who's ranked 11th in the world. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, right now, the rain clouds are dominating the southern parts of the peninsula, and it's been raining since this morning in Jeju, but that should gradually spread to other parts of southern regions. So 20 to 60 millimeters of showers are expected in Jeju, 5 to 30 millimeters in Jeollado and Gyeongsang-Namdo province, and less than 5 millimeter is in store for the other parts of the southern regions, and all this precipitation should go away by the late afternoon. So much cooler day is in store for down south, but it's going to be another summer-like afternoon here in the capital. In fact, temperatures on Friday will hike up to 29 degrees Celsius in Seoul. So a hot day is definitely on the way. Now, over in Chindo, winds and waves will get tougher today, but the currents in the water will remain weak. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The high in Seoul will rise to 27, while Daegu will peak at 24, and Gwangju and Busan should climb to 22 and 21 respectively. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will reach 21 and 25. Dokdo should see a high of 22, while Mount Keungang tops out at 16. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back with more updates afternoon.
And that's all we have for you for now. We'll be back with another newscast at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.